Hi, this is Stephanie Falck, a research technician with the USDA ARS, and I'm here to present an Eastern Oregon Ag Minute. This week I'll talk about the various physical traits horses have that enable them to perform in all the tasks we ask of them. Think about all the things we do with horses. In some disciplines, speed is desired, in others, endurance is more important. Agility is important for working cattle, rodeo events, and playing polo. Other breeds can pull or carry great loads. Did you know that over time, a horse's body has become adapted to give them the ability to perform these tasks? A horse's speed is determined by the product of two factors, the frequency of the stride and the length of the stride. A racing horse completes about 2.25 strides per second. This is fast for an animal the size of a horse. The upright shoulder blade, without a collarbone to secure it, adds to the rotational velocity of the leg. Ultimately, the frequency of the stride is limited by the constraints of the muscles. They simply cannot contract fast enough to make this number any higher. Where a horse gets most of its speed from is the length of their stride, which commonly measures from 20 to 24 feet in racehorses. Secretariat's stride length was measured at 25 feet, and Man o' War's was reportedly 30 feet. To put this in perspective, this means he could run the length of a football field in just 10 strides. How are horses able to efficiently have such extreme stride lengths? Join me tomorrow and I'll let you know. This week I'm talking about the biomechanics that enable horses to perform the way they do. Stride length is a major component of a horse's speed. Man o' War's was reportedly 30 feet. Horses accomplish this stride length in several ways. First of all, their legs are long compared with the remainder of their body. Horse legs are likely at their optimum length right now. If they were any longer, they would interfere between the front and hinds. The horse's legs gain even more length when you consider that the horse is running on his toes, since the horse's bones in his hoof are comparable to our toes. Think about the difference in speed this makes in a human runner. A runner on the balls of their feet is much quicker than one running flat-footed. The second component that allows for a long stride length is a moment of suspension. In harness horses, there are two phases of the stride where the horse is off the ground, totaling 35 to 43% of each stride. At the gallop, horses are unsuspended once each stride, totaling 20 to 30% of the stride. To put it simply, part of the long stride length comes from the horse jumping once or twice per stride, depending on the gait. Speed is only one component of a horse's abilities, though. There is also endurance to consider. Join me tomorrow and I'll explain. This week I'm talking about the biomechanics that enable horses to perform the way they do. I've talked about speed already this week, but what about endurance? Horse legs are designed to be as light as possible. The movement of the horse's legs is limited to forward and backwards movement, with very little side-to-side movement possible. This reduces the number of muscles involved. The lower legs of horses have very little bulk from muscle, making them lighter. The horse leg also conserves energy by moving like a pendulum, meaning that the potential energy at the top of the swing is converted to kinetic energy at the bottom of the swing, and then back again as the legs move. The fetlock of the horse also acts as a springing device. The suspensory ligaments of the lower leg stretch when the horse puts weight on the leg, then contract as the leg is lifted, cushioning impact and recycling spring energy. Horses also conserve energy by keeping their strides relatively low to the ground, especially when compared to other speed animals such as cheetahs and greyhounds. However, speed and endurance mean little if the legs don't have the strength to support the animal. Join me tomorrow and I'll discuss how horse legs are supported. This week I'm talking about the biomechanics that enable horses to perform the way they do. Yesterday I discussed how horses' legs are lightweight as possible to conserve energy. But how do they have the strength to support such a large animal, as well as a rider? Since horse legs are limited to front and back movement, and the horse leg is aligned vertically, the majority of stress on the leg is in the form of vertical compression. The bone is then oriented in a lattice-like material vertically, to provide the most bracing for the vertical force. This is also why sometimes catastrophic failures occur with any kind of twisting of force applied to the leg. The hinges of the joints are also supported by flange and groove construction, and the ball joint in the hip is more cylindrical than round, limiting its range of motion. As a horse stands, the hind leg is partially flexed, generally not the best state for long-term support. However, the hind legs are supported passively by locking mechanisms. The hock and stifle joints are oriented so that one cannot flex without the other flexing as well. The patella or kneecap in the stifle joint slides into a locked position when the horse is bearing weight on the leg, effectively holding both the stifle and hock against collapsing. Join me tomorrow when I'll cover another unique feature of equine physiology. This week I've been talking about the biomechanics that enable horses to perform for us. All this week I've discussed how horses are built to be quick yet efficient runners. Even a horse's internal organs contribute to this process. At the gallop, the horse breathes in rhythm with every stride. The abdominal muscles pull the hind legs forward in the suspension phase of the gallop, causing the organs within the abdomen to move away from the diaphragm, thereby bringing air into the lungs and causing the horse to inhale. When the legs move backwards and the neck is lowered during the extension of the gallop, the gut contents shift forward, pushing the diaphragm and forcing air out of the lungs. Thus, breathing is a passive activity and requires little additional energy input. The horse's spleen also stores additional red blood cells. When the horse is just standing around, red blood cells, which carry oxygen, make up about 35 to 40% of the blood. However, blood in the spleen is about 80% red blood cells. When the horse is working, those extra red blood cells are squeezed out of the spleen into the circulating blood, enabling the horse to carry more oxygen to the working muscles. So the next time you make a run for a calf on your horse, now you can appreciate all the physiological adaptations that make it possible